Hey, what is up, Patreon peeps? It's Rich. All right, you're like, whoa, what is going on, Rich? So I did a YouTube video this morning. I've got a clip on this. I don't know why. This page must be super cool to me, or was several years ago, whenever I marked it. But I was listening back to the video and just kind of flipping through these books, the ones that I hadn't been looking at, and there were a couple of other insights that I didn't talk about in the YouTube video, and I was like, you know what, this is like cool. I can give the Patreon people a little bit of extra insight into learning. So this is the deal. When you look at a comic book, or you look at an art book, or you look at a movie, or whatever it is, you have a level of awareness and knowledge right now that you maintain. That's yours. That's your toolbox. You might not even be aware of what exactly is in your toolbox currently, but I assure you that you have a toolbox and there's stuff in it. Now, if you saw Jim Lee's toolbox, it's probably a whole garage with those cool metal cabinet things full of tools. But regardless, you've got a toolbox. He just has more. But no. So here's the deal. This is what I've noticed, and I've talked about this in other videos. So this isn't a brand new concept, but it's something really important, I think, to be aware of. Is okay. Like, I've been working on my stuff really, really hard the last few months. And I've always worked on my stuff pretty hard, and I've always been a pretty good student. I definitely had a period of time where I wasn't studying comics as much, but generally speaking, I've always sort of been pretty diligent about learning more about art and looking at a lot of art. So, here's the deal, though. The more you draw and the more that you try stuff, the more you're really going to have an awareness of what you actually know well and what you don't know well. And because I don't draw with any kind of reference out when I draw anything, the only opportunities that I have to acquire more knowledge is when I'm not drawing. That's not like if I had never drawn something before, I mean, of course I would grab ambulance reference or whatever it is, but I always know exactly what I need to work on, because if there's something that I suck at, or that I'm not really as confident as I want to be, I can really know, okay, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. This is important. This is something that I keep finding that I don't know as intimately as I want. I want that tool in my primary toolbox. And what you'll find is there's stuff that you learn that you won't retain as easily, and then there's other stuff that will kind of will stick with you better. But generally speaking, you will have a greater awareness and focus when you look at stuff, because of the fact that you've struggled with something, or you don't know how to do something well. I don't know why it made me think of something in particular, but just if you've ever had to draw, maybe it was when I did. Yeah, I can't remember. There was something that I drew a while ago, and you go, man, okay, how would I do that? And then you figure it out, but then you see someone else do it, and you go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of putting that finger above that finger, or you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, there's just these little moments that you'll be able to pull more out of something that you look at than somebody who doesn't do the hard work on their own. So it's a really, really important part of the learning process, and I think growth process is fighting your way through drawings, because when you go and actually look at good stuff, you'll be able to really, really pull more out of it. And then the only other thing that I would say is, I was thinking about comic book storytelling and drawing pages, and why you need to really work hard. And it was funny because Ethan and Jason Fabok, Ethan Van Sciver and Jason, I mentioned the interview and the new YouTube video that I put up, talk about this. that like you can't just sort of like go like, oh, I want to draw comics, and you sort of think you're gonna sort of half-ass it. You will get destroyed. Okay, like I know what it takes to draw comic books because I've been around, and this is just good fortune, really really good comic book artists, and if you're not gonna commit 1000% and basically obsess over it, you're not going to do jack shit in comics. That's just the reality. Is it's got to be like everything, every single fiber of your body needs to be focused on that, and they talk about that, and I totally agree. I mean, you can't limp in. It's a really really brutal form of art. And a funny analogy I had is, and I've talked about this before, like how hard it is to work on stuff that you haven't written yourself. And I swear it never fails. Like you can prepare, and this I'll leave you with this. This is such a good analogy. Is you can really really get good at drawing, and you can draw superheroes, and you're like, I've got my Batman down. I can draw Superman flying. This is awesome. I guarantee the first script that you get from DC would be like, hey, okay, we've got a really fun like 2-page sequence. It's going to be Batman, Superman, Lois Lane, and Catwoman, but they're all out of costume, and they're poolside, and they're in the pool playing chicken. So the girls are going to be on the guy's shoulders, and they're going to be tossing around, and it's just a fun, like, one's a 9-panel sequence with them, shoving each other, and then one of them falls in the water, and it'll be something that you completely weren't prepared for. But you know how you can get prepared for it is to really learn to draw. And that's why I say that all those cheats and tools, they can be really, really dangerous because it gives you a false sense of security, and you're just better off kind of knowing how to draw everything, even at on a scale from 1 to 10. If you can draw everything consistently at like a 3 or 4 and actually do panel to panel work, you're actually a much more strong and foundationally sound artist than someone who can do a 7 but has to use cheats for every single thing that they draw. And believe it or not, there are people out there that have to use cheats for just about every single thing that they draw. Do they have artistic ability? Yeah, they actually do. It's like those people that do the really buttery, I call it buttery, but the people that will draw like celebrities from photographs, and they're these incredible reproductions of like a photograph. They're able to use size relationships, and a lot of them cheat too. I mean, I talked about that in the YouTube video, but I mean, I can use this as an example since we don't really have a vested interest in those artists. Like, they'll do YouTube videos where they show like a speed version of them doing the pencils. I would say that probably 98% of the people that do those actually put an underdrawing down or are projecting it and pulling out like screen, the moments when they're projecting the images down just to get the foundation down. They render it all on their own, but they're outlining the eyes, they're outlining the placement of the lips, because why wouldn't you? If you're going to basically sit and copy a photo, yeah, you know what? You could actually spend the extra 2 hours and place all those little features in by eye, and then copy all the shading, and then it just depends on like how committed are you to reproducing every single value of the thing. Now, those same people, I'm telling you, if you ask them to draw Superman and Batman in the swimming pool with Lois Lane and Wonder Woman or whoever, Catwoman, like having like a little chicken fight in the pool and playing around for 2 pages, maybe one page is 9 panels, the other is 4. They would have no idea how to do it. It would look like a completely different artist. It would probably look like a 16-year-old, that kind of can draw, like maybe has a nice application of pencil, but yeah. So that's the difference of being able to draw comics. So when I tell people, or I say that like I'm working to draw comics, really what I'm doing is I'm getting a solid awareness of how to draw anything. And the only way that you can really do that is by learning the fundamentals. You need to understand how to draw figures pretty well. You need to be able to move them around in perspective. You need to be able to light those figures. You need to be able to dress those figures. The storytelling part of it, honestly, is not that big of a deal, but it's being able to draw all those elements in panels. The as soon as you are not even confident enough, when you have the ability, because you've learned how to draw figures and move them around in perspective and then light them and then dress them, and you know, put them in environments, it really, then you're there. And that's why you see what kind of appears to be like a large growth curve with some artists is when you're first doing pages, it's kind of piecemeal, and it's not even like, it's just a natural part of the evolution. Is you're kind of, you know, it's like if there's 10 ingredients to draw a page, each one really hasn't homogenized. So it's like, you know, you set everything on the page, but it doesn't flow. You know, it doesn't have that little bit of honestly, it's kind of like a speed and accuracy thing, and really being able to have things react to each other in the drawings. But yeah, it's like first you learn to do it, then you learn to really kind of play with it. So anyway, I hope that helps a little bit, and honestly, it should encourage you, because the thing is keep working on your stuff, keep looking at good stuff, and then fill in all those like blank areas. And all those tools are there for us too. You know, if you have a sequence where you have to draw a Chrysler LeBaron and a Porsche running around, if you really don't want to draw it, you can get 3D models on like 3D Warehouse or whatever, and throw them into Google SketchUp, and they're problem solved. But you know, you're not going to solve problems if that's the only way that you can draw any of your stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? Is like, if you have to use cheats or tools, or we'll call them aids, for most of the stuff that you do, you're really going to struggle with pages. And again, I'm talking to comic book artists because it's just a different demand. The demand to draw pages is just to be varied and really kind of have a basic handle on all the fundamentals. And once you have that, you're off and running. I mean, it's just the way that it is, and it's really fun to do, but it's challenging, you know. And then you pick level of detail and sort of finish and all the fun stuff, like what's your style going to be? Are you going to use a lot of lighting, or you're not going to use any lighting? Is your stuff going to be cartoony or maybe a little more realistic? You know, that's the fun part. But the first hurdle is just really kind of being able to draw all the basics, but really, really well, and move them around, you know, shuffle them around. But it's all kind of the same thing. I've said that honestly all along, even before, as people will go, oh, a horse is hard to draw. Like, that's always something that people will say. But a horse isn't any harder to draw than a dog or a human figure. You know, maybe we practice human figures more, faces more, because that's something that we you know is going to be something that's thrown your way. But look, a horse is no different than anything else. It's just it's a series of forms that you have to be able to move in space. And you know, again, the reference is out there. I'm sure Mark, you know, although it is interesting to think of. He probably did use reference for that monkey's head, but boy, I'll tell you what, in the 1980s, it was a lot harder to get reference for a chimp screaming or whatever that is. That's probably not a chimp. A spider monkey than it is now, because at least now you've got the speed of just being able to Google it. So anyway, all the tools are there for us. We're very, very fortunate generation of artists. So, all right. That's my advice for comic book artists, just for the Patreon people. This video will be unlisted, and again, I can't thank you enough for your Patreon support. All right, no more videos from me for a while, but like I said, I had a very generous Patreon donation last night, and I thought I would deliver some extra goodies. All right, bye.